guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. It's been a little bit of an odd week thus far. So yesterday morning, and I did post about it on Facebook and Instagram, but my mom was walking around in the pasture to change some water, some sprinkler water, and she stepped on a stick weird and fell and broke her ankle and shin bone. And I got a call from my sister saying the ambulance was on the way out, and the weird part about it is so early in the morning, and my sister was calling me, so I just texted her quick and said, I'm just waking up, and she goes, no, pick up, it's an emergency.
It's the worst kind of text to see.
Especially my dad and brother they came home yesterday, but they were on vacation and they were coming home that day, and I just thought, were they on the road? Did somebody get in a car accident? Everything runs through your brain. And so when I talked to her, she had told me what had happened, and so it was just like yesterday was just kind of like I went and made some bouquets and then went grocery shopping, took stuff out to my mom, and she's in really good spirits. So the thing about it, it wasn't like a compound fracture is where the bone comes out, right?
I don't know.
It wasn't all the way out of the skin, but it was
trying to push
like
out.
The foot was dangling.
Yeah.
Sort of a thing. Yeah. Anyway, so they were able to set the shin break, but she has to go in for surgery to get the ankle break fixed. So.
What a pain.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually know it was a stick. I thought it was like a gopher hole or something.
Well, I thought it was that at first. I just figured that's what it was because those are.
So she broke it just on a stick?
Yeah, she stepped on a stick weird and got caught on her shoe somehow, and it made her fall forward, but her foot didn't fall with her the right way.
How odd.
I know. And you just never know.
Yeah.
It could have been you or I stepping on a stick weird.
Well, so she didn't have her phone with her.
No.
But Monica heard her. A good thing Monica was staying with her.
Yeah.
But she was texting me this morning about getting an Apple Watch with the cellular.
That's good.
But you know what? Honestly, that's either have your phone with you or have like a watch or something that, In fact, Apple Watch didn't even sense if you fall. It'll call emergency services for you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
But maybe you just never know. So right when we're done here, I'm going to run and get a few more things, take it out and make her dinner this afternoon / evening and just kind of hang out with her for a while. That's the hard part. She was in such good spirits, and she said, I'm going to be back at it in 2 weeks. I'm like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And we're going to make sure that you rest.
Not when your foot is dangling.
She goes, what do I do now? I'm not sick. I just have to sit here because of this dang foot. So I can only imagine because, she and I are very similar, and I, being kind of cooped up like that, although I'm like, well, it couldn't be a better time. Our 10-day forecast, all over 100 degrees. So if you're going to be cooped up inside, let it be when it's over 100 degrees outside and not beautiful in the spring or the fall. So there's the silver lining, I guess.
If you can call it that.
Yeah. Okay. So that's pretty much that what is it? Eclipsed everything else that I don't even know what I've done this week, kind of a thing. So we're going to go through these videos from last week and answer some questions. First one is planting 3 varieties of hyssop, the perfect perennial for crummy soil. And it sure is. They can handle high pH, they can handle drought once they're established, they can handle a wide range of different soil types, soil pH, full sun. They're just a really wonderful perennial, and I think I planted 3 varieties in that video, as well as a blue spruce, because when I placed the first hyssop variety, I thought, well, that looks awesome right there, but it would look even more awesome if I had a blue spruce right behind it. So I went and got one of those. Deborah said, thank you for sharing your struggle to pin down the perfect location for your weeping spruce. Aaron, was that a good experience?
There's more of that we could have shared, but the camera was off for some of it.
It was off because we figured we were done, and then I stood back and I'm like, no, I'm going to be unhappy with this. Yeah. Most of us have done the same. I truly appreciate your willingness to share your true adventures in gardening. Yeah, that spruce was shifted 2 different times, planted and then shifted twice more, so 3 times, I guess, total. It happens. Kathy Murphy said, do you use Biotone whenever you plant a perennial or annual? No. Oh, she goes on to say, I know that some plants, Russian sage sedum, don't like fertilizer, but would you still use Biotone? I don't. Perhaps a video of no fertilizer plants. That'd be an interesting one, tough, no fuss, don't mess with me sort of plants.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. I usually make a note in my phone, these tips you give us, but I'm up to 373 reminders. I know what my winter project will be. Holy moly. That's a lot of reminders, Kathy. Hannah said, what ended up happening to the 3 limelights that used to be underneath the willow tree? They are still there. So there's one, so if you're standing looking at Hebe, there's one kind of tucked behind her. That one still blooms. I think it just gets enough sun from the side because that kind of faces south and it's a little bit out from underneath the tree canopy. The other 2 I'm going to get rid of. I'm going to dig them out because they just have struggled. They're in too much shade right there. I don't think the water is enough. In fact, when we were in that area, we realized that the drip is not functioning properly. And it might be functioning properly. It's just that we don't have enough run in that area and we have no idea where it's at because it's like the original drip from when we moved in. And so we need to do a complete overhaul of the drip system, and we need to add extra because there's a willow in there and the willow uses quite a lot of water, versus other trees. So we're going to wait until fall or spring when we've done our big clean out and we've cut things back and it's a lot easier to maneuver in that flower bed. So we're just going to kind of limp things along. Like the other day I went out and I ran individual little tubes to the hyssop root balls just to keep them happy through all this heat. Colleen said, I noticed your white metal arbor behind you while you're talking. Does it need painting or is that the style of it? It is the style of it. And I know like so many people, whenever we show it, they're like, oh, you need to paint that. Paint it black. It's the way it's supposed to look. There is some iron. Is it iron that does that? That does the rusting?
Yeah.
So we used to, or I probably still do, get these pieces in at the garden center that say on the tag it says guaranteed to rust. It's just the patina that each piece takes on, and it's it doesn't like eat away at the metal. It's a non-corrosive, is that what the right word, type of rust. It's kind of like on the Corten steel planter, the raised bed I have from Gardener Supply. The rust patina that one takes on, it doesn't eat away at the metal. So it's kind of like, it's just the way it looks, and I love it. It has kind of a shabby, what's that word?
Shabby chic?
Yeah, kind of look to it, which I'm normally not into, but for some reason I just love that. You would paint it in a second, probably.
I would get rid of it in a second.
You would?
Yeah, that's not my style at all.
Oh, that would be a huge miss, Erin.
Would it?
Yes. That would be a miss. Everybody needs to say that. It would be. It's such a beautiful arbor, and it just frames in that space. Now that space is going to change. The boxwoods are looking rough.
Maybe that's what it is that I don't like it in that space right now because the whole space needs to be overhauled, and I feel like me, I would have ripped it all out early this spring.
We would have had a dust pile there.
Well, you could throw mulch there. In fact, it would be really easy to put mulch if you ripped everything out because then it would just be blank and you could just throw mulch on it. So at least it wouldn't look bad. I feel like it looks way worse having it like half ripped up with a bunch of dead boxwoods. But some boxwoods look okay.
I know. I'm kind of getting to the point. I'm a slower mover than Erin is because I don't want to... I don't want to make a giant mistake, like getting rid of the circle boxwoods. I'm getting closer and closer to wanting to pull those out because they're just like, they're a behemoth in that space.
In the way.
They are.
To me, that's the way to describe it.
And part of them are starting to look a little bit like I can see that burn stuff happen. And so I don't know. I'm getting closer, but I don't want to just rip stuff out just for the sake of ripping it out either. If there's something that you can do, kind of like the elderberry that I just tackled in the garden, like it would have been easy just to pull that out because, well, it got way too big for that spot. It's not going to work here. And I just thought, I think I could trim that up, make it more of a tree so that we could save it and then not have to get rid of it. And it turned out to be so beautiful. So anyway, we do pretty good though. Because there's plenty of stuff that you've ripped up and done, so it kind of fills up your cup, I guess.
Yeah. Of destruction.
Yeah. Jennifer said, what are the water needs for the weeping blue spruce? I bought a Slenderina. Oh, Slenderina. I had the option of buying a Slenderina, but I think those actually get a little bit wider, right, than the one that I bought, I think, and that's why I went with the other one. But a beautiful tree. Last year online, and I'm curious how much water I need to be giving it to keep it happy. Totally depends on so many things. Where you have it, what kind of wind exposure, what kind of light exposure, what kind of soil do you have, what kind of water do you have. That's really hard to say. I would ask somebody at your local garden center. For us right now, first year we give everything a lot more water than it's going to need going forward. And that probably means, well, our drip system goes off every single day. And there are 2 drip lines that run by that.
Which I don't think the spruce is actually like. I think that they tolerate it in certain conditions. But I think if you could water like twice a week, like deeper soakings, once or twice a week, I think they would prefer that.
I agree with you. And that's what the big trees that we had installed, the big spruce trees, the Norway and the blue spruce, he advised 2 twice a week deep soaks. So we'll see how that maple does.
Yeah.
Not looking good, guys. Could be just the heat. I don't know. But
well, it was struggling well before the heat. I think it's going to pull out because I think it would have died by now.
it looks like half a tree though, because it was too big for his equipment, I think. And he struggled getting it out, and he said it was the hardest tree that he's ever moved. I kind of thought, well, I wish you would have told us that.
Yeah.
I would have chosen something smaller.
Well, the other thing is that, several limbs had to be cut. And so we didn't get the tree that we actually bought because some of the limbs were cut.
Like
so,
half of the tree.
like in our mind,
Yeah.
it was like, we're going to get the tree that we see planted in the ground. But instead you actually get like a limbed up tree.
But only on one side.
I still think that it'll be fine in the end.
I hope so. Oh, I hope so. I mean, it's been a fun experience. The spruces are awesome, and we're considering possibly putting in more spruces this fall or maybe next year or the year after. I don't know. I don't know about deciduous though. I don't know if I would go that route again. Maybe with something smaller.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably with something smaller.
Yeah. Vic Frick said, I have to rerun a lot of my drip this year. Same. The tubing with the internal emitters kept clogging up from our hard water. Yep. It was in for just 1 year. I have others that have been in for 2 years and no problem. Do you have this issue? Yes.
It's very intermittent.
Yeah.
We've noticed it more on the quarter inch.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That is almost like yearly. You
Yeah.
pretty much have to put it in a new, in the pots yearly. And then the half inch is just really intermittent. You just kind of have to watch it.
Yeah. I was just telling Aaron that I'm going to have to replace all of our raised bed drip. You know how I do like the kind of configuration with quarter inch? It's just too much. I'm going to do drip tape. It's not going to look as nice, although you can bury the drip tape.
Yeah.
You were telling me that the other night. So I'm going to run from the faucet. I'm going to run a half-inch black poly supply line and then just cap it. So it'll be a 3 foot wide. And then I'll just couple into that with drip tape and do 3 or 4 runs of drip tape and just bury it under mulch and plant my stuff, or under compost rather. So you won't even, it might even be the best thing.
Yeah.
Because you won't see it. But yeah, I've been struggling with that this year, more than other years. Next video was planting some problem shade hanging baskets in my parents' garden. They have 3 hanging baskets on their deck, and they had already planted them twice this season. The first time there's a really thin plastic liner on the inside, and I don't think that my mom did any drain holes in it the first time, so things rotted. And I don't even think it was, I don't know, she wasn't watering very much, but a lot of things just need to have that oxygen exchange. They need air, they need drainage, especially with pots that you can't really finger test very often because they're in a precarious location. And then they planted up some scavola, which I think would, even if the pot's drained, I don't think it would have liked it there because scavola wants more sun and this is pretty deep shade. So I had some beautiful things to put in them that I took out there and just emptied them out for them, took the plastic liner out, lined it with frost cloth, which she said is they're doing beautifully. They are when she waters, water comes out like crazy.
That's good.
But she said, I would rather that than have them all rot again. So I used 2 of the Upside sweet potato vine. They're new for next year. Upside key lime and Upside black coffee, which are a climbing and a trailing type sweet potato vine. So they should take off up the chains and spill below. So that'll be really neat. Hopefully we're early enough in the season to see some of that growth, but we were late enough into the season where I could pack those planters full. I packed them to within an inch of their life. I have a diamond frost euphoria in the center, 3 sun patiens, compact white, and then a wire vine, and then 2 sweet potato vines. They were, I didn't have any problem. I didn't have to manipulate root balls. They had enough space to all go in there, but I wouldn't have done that if I was planting it at the beginning of the season. Debbie said, wish we could have seen Mom's face when she saw your creation. So love her expressions of gratefulness. She's such a gem, especially during your shopping videos. What a hoot she is. Yeah, I thought about that. And then I called her because she was at work that day, and it just didn't work out timing wise. We got done fairly early in the afternoon, and Benjamin, I promised him we could go swimming. So we hung out in the pool for a while. And by the time we were exhausted, and yeah, they hadn't made it home yet. So I didn't capture the reaction, but she did call me and she loves them. Teresa said, hey Laura, what are the 2 shrubs that flank the patio at Mom's? Are they the blue? There's a blue juniper topiary, but there's also lemony lace elderberries. That might be the shrub you're talking about. They look really pretty. And they are pretty robust for the lack of light that they get. Yeah. Chris said, when do we get to see your parents' garden? I'm so anxiously waiting for that day. One
You
of
just
these
need to
days,
do it.
I know. The thing is that we always try to wait for an overcast day, which I don't know that we're going to get that here anytime soon, so we might just have to go do it. It's just, it looks so much like richer, the colors are richer, and it makes everything look really pretty. And I want, whenever we're at other people's homes, I want everything to look as pretty as possible. So it's just like the best representation of what they have going on. So anyway, maybe one of these days. I'll probably wait until my mom is a little bit more on the mend, so it might be a fall garden tour. Stacy said, do you have a source for the basket? Oh no, my parents have had those baskets down at the garden center for a long time. They're pretty standard though. I mean, I've seen lots of different baskets that look very similar. Linda said, can you cut back the scavola instead of chucking it? Will it reflush to be usable in another pot? I'm asking because I have one that looks great, but another that looks like the one you just pulled. You can absolutely try it, not out anything. If you want to go ahead and pot it, cut it back, give it more light, and monitor the water, absolutely. Sarah said, some patients in diamond frost euphoria need 4 to 6 hours of sun to perform and flower. Are these appropriate for a full shade area? Yep. Diamond frost euphoria does surprisingly well in shade, and some patients just won't get as big. And I actually we've got some patients in a spot, the front ones, how many hours of sun do you think those get?
Which plants now?
The sun patients around Persephone. How many hours do you think they get? They do not like it.
Oh, yeah. Probably not enough.
They don't look near as good as the ones in the back that get shade.
Yeah.
Those look so like lush and full. So yeah, those will do totally fine. B4 Real 87 said, beautiful, just a question. Why did you not just cut more slits in the plastic liner instead of removing it completely and replacing it with something else? Could have done that, I suppose. But I didn't. I don't know.
From scratch.
Just, may as well. Got them all taken apart, may as well try something else. Next video was planting 40 full sun shrubs in our friend's garden. So we took 2 truckloads of plants over to our friend's house. Planted them in their garden. And it looks really pretty, even though we've got, like, we need to focus on evergreen interest next and then red stuff next, like red 9 barks and things like that. And maybe we've got some real pretty new Weigelas, I think they are, they're really pretty. And they've got a lot of red in them. We need to add some more of that so there's a lot more contrast, and then possibly some ornamental grasses. So that needs to kind of be our focus going forward, because we put in mostly just green shrubs this time. But it still made the areas look full and look more pretty, so I was happy with that. Thea said, don't we all wish we had friends like Laura and Aaron and Cheddar to help us bring our landscapes from barren to beauty? I'm so enjoying the journey of your friend's property. Thanks for bringing us along. Much love from New York. I'm glad you're enjoying it. They recently have had some tree issues.
Yeah, big time. You could see it in that video too if you were looking in the background. So they planted some of their trees. Well, in fact, some of their trees were from the same load as our autumn blaze maples.
They came here and picked up the ones we did.
Because we had a couple extras. Yeah. So they went to their house. I think they had like 4 or 5 or 6. And so that was 2020 that they went in. Last year they did great. They were looking awesome. And then this year they're dying, all of them.
Yeah.
And
they think leafed out.
They maybe like got sprayed. It could be like the fields near them, like overspray. They also this year just switched over from well water to irrigation district water.
Just for the trees and grass, or for the stuff?
For everything.
Stuff around the house looks good,
right?
Though.
So you're just looking at everything. You're like,
sure,
what could there possibly be? So that was a change. But it's just weird that a tree would be in the ground. So this is like its 2nd year in the ground, 3rd technically, because it went in the fall. It existed the whole year, and then this next year. So but they're all dying. They're like curling. It kind of looks like they've been sprayed. It doesn't look like they're lacking for water.
They're not nutrient deficient. It doesn't look like any kind of fungal issue that I can see. There's no insects present.
Yeah.
Like, it's the weirdest thing. All the shrubs that we've put in so far are looking, and perennials and such are looking good around the house.
Well, the 2 trees, what are they, crab apples? The 2 trees at the entrance of their property? Red buds. Those are dying. And in that video, like you said, look, they're like coming back. They're doing okay. From the time we filmed it, she sent me a picture, and they're already looking like they're dying. Isn't that crazy?
That is so weird.
Like, what in the world?
Leona said, I'm wondering if you use weed cloth. I'm getting ready to plant lots of perennials and noticed you didn't fight any cloth. Should I even use it? There are a few different schools of thought on weed cloth. We typically don't use it because I don't want to fight it. I also don't feel like it's like really great for soil health. It makes it hard to fertilize things or to add amendments because you can't get underneath to the soil level. I mean, it does, if you use the good stuff, the DeWitt Pro landscape fabric, that's the only kind I'll use if I use it. And we do have it in 2 areas. We have it underneath our arborvitae hedge because we have a bindweed problem, and if bindweed was like, if it was to take off and climb up our arborvitaes, we couldn't eradicate it because you can't spray it out of arbs. It would kill the arborvitaes. So same for a boxwood hedge in Versailles. We have weed cloth just under that boxwood hedge, not under any of the other ones. It's only in areas where we have bindweed problems. But as a rule, like, we typically don't use it. It does mean that we have to weed, but the goal is to have our space so full of plants that they're kind of covering the soil and suppressing the weeds. That's kind of how we are going to approach it. Lots of ground covers, lots of shade. They don't grow as well in the shade. So, I mean, it just depends on what direction you want to go. I would say don't use it. We recommended to our friends not to use it when they started, because we told them, like, you can do whatever you want. You know your life and your schedule and your busyness level better than we do. So, you just do what you want to do, but we wouldn't use it if it was us. And they didn't. And I think they've kind of a couple times thought, oh, we wish we would have used it. But in the end, I think it's better not to. Amy said, I've been adding more shrubs for structure and less maintenance. Besides boxwoods, what other shrubs do well in shady areas, both dry and wet? It depends on the area, I think. But for us, we can put yews, Y-E-W, yews in shady spots and in dry and wet. It can handle a little bit more moisture. Dogwoods are great. If you need something that can handle lots of moisture, put a dogwood in a shady spot. You won't get like the little blooms are fairly insignificant on dogwoods anyway. I'm talking like the shrub type. They usually come out in like kind of discs of bloom, and they don't last for very long. So you'll forfeit some bloom and possibly like berry production, but that's not why we plant them. We plant them for their pretty stem color, but they can handle quite a bit of shade. I feel like that's a really good option. Laura said, what are the beds around the house top dressed with? Love the color, but hesitant to use anything dyed. I think they did use black mulch, which we've used before.
Yeah.
We've had no adverse effects.
That we know of.
Yeah.
We're using compost now, forested compost, which is pretty dark. I've wondered if they've put anything in that. I mean, supposedly there's not, but it's pretty dark. I mean, it's not like black, like the black mulch. So
it's different. There's different types of black mulch. So there's some that's real shiny.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
There's some that's real chunky. I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Like the real fine stuff, I like that. And I would much rather have it darker like that, like a dark brown or almost a black, rather than, I'm not a fan of red, or the brown even like leans toward red to me. So we usually like something a little bit darker, but like Erin said, we are using compost at this point.
I mean, unless you live your life to where you like only eat organic things, but there's dyes and there's food colorings in so much of our food. So if they put a little, you don't need that much dye to dye mulch and stuff like that.
Didn't you buy something that you could?
Yeah, I just haven't tried it yet, but it's still in the garage. I bought It was like called EnviroDye, or it was something that like they're really trying to get across that like this is environmentally friendly. There's nothing wrong with this. But I haven't tried it yet.
That would be interesting. Autumn said, do you ever scrape the mulch away before digging the hole so you can reuse it to cover the lighter dirt after planting, or does the lighter dirt eventually dissolve into the mulch? You know what, when we use the auger, it's just, especially if we're planting 40 things, it's way easier just to go aug all the holes and then use a little extra mulch. Keep a few bags around, and then you can go around and kind of just top dress. I've tried to push the mulch aside. It's such a big job to do that and then get it back all clean. It's just easier to remulch around the shrubs when you're done. Nicole said, didn't Oregon ban the sale of butterfly bush because it's so invasive? Yikes, I've unsubscribed. You should know better than to plant invasive plants. Well, Nicole, you should maybe do a little bit more research, because there are sterile varieties of butterfly bush, and we cannot plant the invasive type that seed themselves around. We can only plant the non-invasive type, and that's what we planted today.
But regardless, our friends live in Idaho, where they are not invasive anyway. Those are just readily sold in Idaho.
Darn, lost one. Margot said, I heard you say you can't grow rhododendrons. Why? Is it just too hot there for them? Is it also the same for camellias? I've never seen you have those. Yeah, both of them like way more acidic soil than we have, and that's typically why we tend to not have success with them. We used to sell them down at the garden center, and then we just stopped bringing them in because everybody had issues, and we were replacing so many that it just became not worth it anymore. Sometimes you just stop pushing, for certain things.
Which is like a good reason that if you can shop at a garden center that's been around for a while in your area, not like they've just popped up this year. Because like chances are, if they've been around for 20, 30, 40 years, like they know what grows in your area.
Teresa said, what size is the auger that you're using here? I used a 9-inch and a 7-inch, I think, that day. Yeah. 9-inch for the bigger, well, obviously for the bigger pot, 7-inch for the smaller ones. Martha said, how far away from a house should you plant a tree or a shrub so that the roots don't disturb the foundation of the house? Do you know like what
I've
people
heard
recommend?
20 feet thrown out as like a ballpark.
That one was
number.
At least 20 feet,
yeah.
I think.
It looked a lot closer in the...
From your angle.
Yeah, from the angle.
Yeah.
But...
it might have been like shy, like maybe 18. Yeah. Something like that.
We don't have that issue in our area of tree roots just
Not really, no.
causing. We also don't have super tall trees in our area either. Like some areas, it's just common to have like 100-foot tall trees, but ours stay a lot shorter, and I don't know.
Don't get enough water, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Next video was harvesting cabbage and strawberries, planting flower seedlings, and pulling ranunculus. That was a really fun project. I've been trying really hard to get up earlier in the day. Because I'm usually up so late at night, you guys, like so late, like 1, 2 in the morning. And so of course it shifts my day a little bit later, but when it's so hot out, I'm trying to get up at 6 a.m. And get out there and get going when it's still cool out. And so I was out a little bit before 7, harvesting the cabbage, and it was just beautiful. Like it was just beautiful. I used to be a morning person. I love to be up in the mornings. Yeah. It's ever since we had Benjamin. It's like ever since we've had kids, our lives have just shifted that way, and then we do a lot of our work later on in the evening because the kids are up early and all of that. Well,
it started off after having Benjamin. You were just so sleep deprived that you know both of us were getting up in the night to feed him, and so in the morning you're just dead tired. It's really hard to get going.
Yeah, so we just shifted our work day to where we were working later, and it's when you've been doing that for 4.5 years, it's hard to kind of try to go back, but I'm trying really hard because I do enjoy early mornings. I used to get up at 5:30 every single morning for a long time. I loved it. Anyway, I got everything done. Like by early afternoon, I was done with all the stuff that I did in that video. So I harvested, I think, like 53 cabbage, took them to the local food pantry, walked you around their garden, harvested a couple of cups of strawberries. I planted some sad looking seedlings that I should have planted out like 2 months ago, and then pulled the first row or the first batch of ranunculus out there and got them ready to dry so we can get them in storage. Kathy said, thank you so very much for promoting donations of garden produce to local food pantries. I volunteer at our local food shelf, and we so appreciate when gardeners bring in their extra produce. You wouldn't believe how much this means to both the organization and especially the clients. Thank you for leading by example and spreading the word. That's a really nice comment. I'm thinking that would be a really good place for us to maybe like give some plants to, or go down and work in there in the garden. And they've got a really good thing going on down there. Heather said, how do you get carrots to go to seed? Leave some in the ground to grow the next season? Just leave them in the ground. They'll just go to seed like a lettuce will bolt and go to seed, or a broccoli will bolt and go to seed. And if you plant them in the early spring when you normally are planting carrots, usually you'll have them go to seed by the end of the season. That particular crop I planted last July in that space, and I just left them in over the winter, harvested some, we ate some through the winter, and then whatever was left out there stayed out there, and I just have let it go to seed. And it's amazing, the pollinator activity. I did stop and show you guys I don't know how many varieties or breeds, types of bees and flies were on there, but it was really interesting. It's a lot. Elizabeth Marie said, I'm surprised how perfect your cabbages look. Do you use any kind of pest control? This year we did spray BT on our cabbage, which is Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a bacteria found in soil. It's very natural and very targeted. It doesn't hurt pollinators. It only hurts caterpillars. Those little green, cabbage.
So it could affect your butterfly population.
If you're spraying plants that have, yeah. I mean, everything has got a way you can use it wrong.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't go spray a crop of parsley or milkweed or wherever, you know, your monarch caterpillars are hanging out. But spraying BT really helped out. And I didn't spray until I noticed we had a ton of moth activity this year.
Yeah.
But I waited until I started to see damage. And I thought, well, you got to get after it. Otherwise, we're going to have a decimated crop here. And it really works out nicely. Billy Joe Bob said, have you ever thought about building an area to process things from the garden so you're not using the back of the gator with a counter, a sink, and a bin for the compostables? Yes, I have thought about that. And you know, the flower shed is going to be, I've already used it several times to sort things, make some flower arrangements. And it's nice because it's right there. I made some flower arrangements for my mom yesterday. And I was able just to kind of like walk out into the cut flower garden when I needed a stem or two of this or that. I could go cut them and take them right back, and everything was right there. So nice. I have all my vases and buckets and Felcos and floral preservative all out there, so it's all ready to roll. What I would like though is a space set up for canning and like processing food and getting it ready either for the freezer or for jars, somewhere that's not inside, not in the kitchen, somewhere where like I could let the scraps fall on the ground and it would be fine and not in the way of normal life. I mean, all of you guys who have canned, you know what it's like. Like, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Remember that one year I canned like everything I could, and then I burned myself out for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I hadn't wanted to can anything until maybe last year, this year. I've been kind of thinking about it again. Amy said recipes for cabbage that your kids will eat. The pie my salad, it's a Chinese chicken salad that Samantha loves. Loves it.
Oh, yeah, she does.
There's like slivered almonds and toasted sesame seeds.
Although she loves a lot of things.
She does. And shredded cabbage is the main part of it. Green onions, ramen, that's just like the dry ramen that's been crunched up, and chicken. So yummy, and she loves that. But yeah, you're right. She'd probably eat anything that I gave her. She is not picky in the slightest.
It's the cutest thing when, like last night when we were getting strawberries, and she was just pounding the strawberries.
Yeah,
like,
I had a lot.
Like
too.
she'd put one in her mouth and then reach out for like next.
More.
Yeah.
More.
Yeah, more.
More. Yeah, she does. That's so cute. Chris Peterson said, Laura, when are you going to show us the Lilium? I'd love to see what you grew. Ooh, I'd have to get out there here pretty quick to show you. They all are in bloom or kind of starting to, some of the blooms are petering out. I did post a picture this last week of the pink giant tiger lilies that I cut and put in the Hartley, and they were gorgeous. Ugh. Jay said, would you consider planting up veggies in the food pantry garden? Yes, I think that would be a really fun thing to do. And the last video for today is 1 month update tour of the college plantings. And that was another one of those mornings that I got myself up and out. And I wouldn't have thought about going down on a Sunday morning, except for Aaron. Actually, we were talking about doing a tour down there, and you suggested like, why don't you go down on a Sunday when nobody's down there? How nice will it be to just like move about? Because I always worry a little bit about people being in the background and maybe not being comfortable with the camera being around. And
it's awkward for you and them, potentially.
Yeah. And it was just nice. It was a nice temperature. I was pretty much by myself. I did see a few people I know ride by on their bikes. Yeah, it was just really nice. So I showed you everything we planted down there, which encompassed like 4 or 5 different project days down there. A lot of things to look at. But Maureen said, whoa, it's a long comment, Aaron.
Yeah. Well, it was a top comment.
Laura, thank you doesn't even come close to expressing the gratitude I feel for you and your channel as a retired Canadian military veteran and an empty nester. My compass was all over the place and I found myself struggling. Throughout my military career, I always dappled with plants and gardening, but with being posted to a new province every 3 years for 21 years, I never got to see my perennial plants in their full glory. Bummer. Never got to harvest from my newly planted fruit trees and bushes. I literally and figuratively didn't get to enjoy the full fruits of my gardening labor, but you kept going. That's awesome. I mean, it's a bummer, but that's awesome that you just kept at it. But a couple of years ago, I found you and Aaron, and you relit the fire. My passion for the garden returned tenfold. Thanks to you, I'm confident with my seedlings. I'm content with my piece of heaven, and I'm on a gardening journey that fills me with so much joy every single day. Last fall, I had a new brick patio put in, and the guys are here now building the pergola over it. I'm restructuring my deck for my gardening needs, and a new greenhouse is breaking ground as I type this. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being my mentor and setting my compass straight again. Oh. Whoa. Oh, Maureen, I mean, what a journey you've had. Dang, 7 different moves. during your time in service. That's just amazing. And I mean, it makes me happy that you kept gardening through that, even though you weren't able to see the fruits of your labor. But I'm really happy that we played a part in relighting the fire. That's really cool. Kristen said, when you say season, you mean the whole year, right? Yeah, the whole growing season is what I mean, which is like when we start planting spring crops until the first hard frost.
If you say 3 seasons ago, it means 3 years ago.
Yeah, I need to be better about that. That's confusing.
I think what you're meaning is like it's 3 summers ago.
Yeah.
It's like it's the 3rd season because it's like you're talking about a specific season of each year.
When I say season, it always means the growing season. If I mean an actual season, I'll actually say it like spring or fall, usually. Anyway, I need to get better about that though, because that's super confusing. Amy said, those coral cannas are a showstopper. Did you dig up and store cannas like the dahlia tubers? I've never been a fan of tropical looking plants, but that coral color has changed my mind. I don't like red flowers either. You can dig them up, and you know, the ones that we planted down there that I stored, I just dug them up out of the pots and left them in the soil that they came up in, because they come in like this huge giant clump. And I just left them like that. That's what they stored in the root cellar, and they did great. I was really happy with it. And those 2 cans you can dig up and save too, and I don't know if they will do that. We won't go down there and do that. They could if they wanted to.
So much work.
Yeah, we kind of treat those as an annual. In fact, dahlias. Yeah, Aaron's like, I don't think I'm gonna dig a single dang dahlia this year. I think I'm gonna try the wintering over method and do the straw and the leaves and the compost and the tarp and see if we can get them to come back. The only benefit is I was able to give away a ton of tubers. That's cool.
Yeah.
There are people starting flower farms just all over the place, but there's a gal in town or nearby, next town, who I gave like 100 and some to. And that was cool. I'm like, I'm playing a part in her journey. Yay. That's so fun. And then, you know, of course, people that work here for us, they take them, and then lots of family and friends. And anyway, there was a crate of them at church on Sunday, and I saw ladies taking tubers out.
Next year, we'll just buy a bunch of extra tubers to give out.
Good plan. Make It Beautiful said, what did you study at the college, Laura? I was going to be an RN. It was like pre-nursing. I got my CNA and then I did you have to have 2 years, your associate's degree, before you go into the RN program. So I had done all the prerequisites, and then it was during the, like at the end of the CNA program where you have to go and like shadow people. They quickly weed people out that way. I think it's
how nice that you were like you weeded yourself out.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you would have been, if you would have kept with the program, you'd have been like, oh geez, now I have this job that I hate.
Yeah. It's a special person who can do a nursing job. A really, really special person. I just didn't have it. I could nurture plants, but I didn't have that people nurturing quality till I had kids, I think. Anyway, yeah. Brenda said, why don't you plant annuals in your own gardens besides just the planters you have? They definitely give you the full color for the season while the perennials mature. We've planted lots.
Well, you know, we've really only planted like 2 beds of annuals. There's
lots of little sections out there. I have like a bunch of have you even looked? Bunch of superbena, a bunch of lobularia, lantana out. I've planted lots of coleus.
You've done a lot of stuff late. It's kind of like you get the scraps of whatever is left over. I think that's maybe what she's getting at, is that it feels like you're doing all the stuff at the end versus... You know, we haven't shown a lot of it either. A lot of the time, so we did a couple of big beds that we showed in a video, but the other places that I have planted, Benjamin and I go out after Samantha goes down for the night. We kind of have a routine where we come outside and I load up the gator with annuals and then just plant up a whole bed. It's not filmed or anything. It's just like, what can I get in the ground before it gets dark? And he and I hang out. He helps. He enjoys that. And he's off doing his thing. He loves like those landscape pins. Yeah. They're like the pins we used in the pallet walkway to hold the boards down. He loves those, and he gets the big roll of string out. And then he says he has to go do his work. Yeah. And I see him out there behind the Hartley pounding in pins with a mallet and then running strings around them and like running the string around the Hartley door. And then he said he's making lines for Chad. So Chad knows what to do. That's so funny. I don't know what he's thinking, but just let him roll with it.
KW said, is there anything one can do to avoid the stains like seen on the cement from fertilizer near every flower container at the college? We all get the same poor effect, and I've tried power washing, but not the perfect answer. Do you know of anything other than self-watering containers that are all...
or just figuring out a way where they can drain to soil.
Yeah.
Like if you can route it somehow.
We've tried that before.
Yeah. There's just no good way.
No, not that we've heard of. If anybody knows of a really good cleaner for concrete with stains like hard water and fertilizer stains, I would be happy to know that information myself. Stephanie said, I'm just curious, how many days top to bottom did it take you to plant all of this for the college? I followed you in a couple of the plantings, but I'm sure you did not include us for everything. I think we did.
Yeah, it was 4.
4 days. And we had Amy helping, which was awesome. And then Rosa actually helped too. She was kind of around. And the big, huge blessing of this year, as opposed to last year, is that Rosa was there and she was there with the water tank. Last year it was a huge push because we didn't have like proper help. I didn't have Amy there, helping me like run things. She ran back to the house several times while I was placing plants and things to get more. She was taking all the tags out of the pots. She was like taking plants where I asked her to take them. So it was saving me so much time and so many steps so that I could place everything. And then we all went through with augers and planted. But last year we didn't have Rosa with the water tank, and that was the huge part. I remember one day Paul was down helping us out, which means that he is not here, making sure things are watered. So that was another thing last year. So you and Paul left. I had to stay and water everything in that courtyard area, and it was like past working hours. It was like dinner time. And then when I got home, I had to do all the things that Paul would have been able to do had he not had to help us. It was just kind of a mess last year. So I think every year you figure out ways to streamline
and we've talked about maybe next year getting even more help, and it'd be kind of fun to try to knock it out all in one day. I think it could be done if we were organized and had, 3, 4, 5 volunteers or something like that.
Yeah.
I would probably need to get another person to help me film too. So maybe Ken could come and help, because that'd be a lot going on all at the same time. And it'd be a lot of moving cameras around.
Yeah. It could be done though.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
Because then you could, you'd have a solid date when it was all planted.
Yeah.
Instead of all these straggler, however we could fit it into our schedule. That would be nice.
Yeah.
And last question from Jacob. I've always heard you should deadhead cannas before they produce a seed head. Do you deadhead your cannas? Will these be a perennial for you? The ones down at the college, they will probably deadhead those. The ones I have here, I do deadhead them. And it depends on this fall. If we don't have dahlias that we're digging up, I might dig up like one of each variety, or maybe like my most favorite varieties this year, and then tent everything else and see how they come back. But like I have Cafe con Leche, which I absolutely love, and so I'll probably dig one of those up so I make sure to have that one next year. But cannas, it just depends on time. I like to deadhead them just because aesthetically it looks better to me. And then, I think that's it. Yep, that's it for this week's recap video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.